All right, I'm going to do a quick storyline rise slash articulate introduction. And I know there's some confusion, right? So it is, in fact, two separate ones, okay? Um, to get to it is weird. Once you go through and set up the account, you're setting up an Articulate 360 account. And some of you may have gone and got to this dashboard here. So this dashboard gives you Rise 360, Review 360, Reach, and then some support. This gives you access to the online aspects that are in fact Articulate. So for those of you doing Rise, this is one way to get to it. You just go to 360, sign in, create new, and then Rise is the most simplistic tool on the planet. You have very little design control. Everything is just kind of drag and drop and type. I don't want to get too much into this. Okay, but for those of you who are interested, and hopefully more of you are, then into the storyline part, that's when you actually have to go and launch what was installed. Okay, and what's installed is that our Articulate 360 kind of like, I don't even know what this is. It's just kind of like a widget dashboard, right? So you can see I can review and rise everything I can launch from here, the web applications, but you need to install Storyline if that's what you want to do. Okay, so you see these say install here. You're going to want to do that for Storyline. Okay, and then you just open it. It is a robust, pretty chunky software. So for those of you with an older computer, for those of you who might have a Mac and running off a virtual machine, it's a doozy. Okay, it's going to go slow at times and it's going to be chunky unless you have like a super machine. Okay, unless you just have a Windows machine that is ready to go. So if in fact you do Storyline, this is it. This is how you start. It launches. You go ahead and do new project. And you should be able to carry over your knowledge from Captivate, your knowledge from using PowerPoint. Okay? So everything you need to do is here, right? Everything probably looks pretty familiar to you right now for the most part. You have new scenes. Consider scenes as a chapter in a book, okay? And the slides are the pages within those chapters. You can do quizzes. Everything is kind of offered to you. I do believe the AI component in the free trial is completely launched and able to. You can see when I'm in this view here, kind of the story view as they call it, I have all things that I can do to my player, right? So there is already, just like in Captivate, a back and a next button and all of those things. As you can see here, it says slide navigation. And all of that, okay? Please name your stuff. This says intro scene, intro slide. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I'm going to just say title for the showing you. Just double click. And I will call this title slide. It matters because you're going to have a menu, and when a learner clicks on the menu, they're going to want to see where it goes, okay? So now I want to go ahead and do something to this slide. I click on it. Here you go, okay? Things that you might want to change, right? So you can see there's a design tab. You have a slide size over here. Right now, my preset for some gosh darn reason is a 4x3. Please change that to 16x9, okay, and lock it. And I'm going to go ahead and set that as my default and say okay. There you can see it turned into that kind of widescreen monitor that we all have known to love and enjoy. Now we're good. Now we're off and running. You kind of now want to ask yourself some questions, right? Do I want to insert something? Yes. So you go to insert. You can insert characters. I don't know what degree you were able to in the free version, but you could do characters. These characters then have poses that you can do. You could do photos. They have their own library in here, right? So anything that you want is going to be here. Just go ahead and search for it. You can see that you could search photos, illustrations, icons, videos. Try to keep everything in here that you need, okay? And again, it's all up here as well. You could also do a picture from your file, something that you might have in a folder. All of that, okay? So it's exactly what you think it is. And here we go. So I'm just going to insert, and I'm going to do a text box, and I'm going to say title. Whoa, super small. Title of this. Right, I don't want to get into it too much because I know everyone here knows it. To change it, articulate light. Change my font. Make that really big, bold, red. I'm going to underline it because it's a title, okay? So there you go. Now, what I like about this mostly is kind of how easy it is to do certain things. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say insert, and you could do a button. You could just pick one of these, which is absolutely fine. Please, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. You can do a slider if you're going to do something. There's dials. Hotspots are obviously an invisible button. All these things are doable, but probably not in the time that we have. I mean, I know with the storyline and Rise we have a lot, but all of these things are great, okay? But just to kind of show you what you want to do is I'm going to go ahead and do a shape. I'm just going to pick one. And that's my shape. What the? And here we go, format. I could do anything that I want to this darn thing. I recommend if you're doing a shape that is going to be a button, just double click and start typing. Right? Because that's going to keep it then in there and you don't have to worry about several things. Okay? Now, let's go to the bottom. We have a timeline, very much like in Captivate. Rectangle text box 1. Make sure you're naming this stuff, please. It's going to help you in the long run. And then I'm going to call this start_btn. And there we go. Okay? So we have a start button. I'm just going to put this here. It looks weird. I get it. But what do you normally have in a button? You have states. So there's a hover state. There's a visited state. There's all these things. So I'm going to go ahead and say states. And I'm going to say edit state. And I'm going to add a state, right? I'm just going to say new state. You see that there? Looks like the new thing. And I'm going to click a built-in. There's a hover, down, visited, all those, but I'm going to say hover, add. And now that I'm in the state here, you see how it's blue? I am definitely in that state because it's blue. Whatever I do now in this particular one, I'm just going to go ahead and make the opacity go down a little bit. See that? I'm going to say done. Now, it's only when I'm in the hover state will that show. But it's there, right? I don't have to code it. I don't have to do anything. And just to show you, I'm going to come up here and go to preview. I'm going to say this slide. Takes a second. I don't know why. It's only one slide with 2 things on it. Wait for it. And there you have it, right? So there's this, and then when I hover over this, see how it turns a little bit lighter? Okay. And just now that we're here, I'll show you. So here's this menu that we speak of, right? It's going to say everything in there. So whatever you title that slide is going to show up over here. Here is your previous and your next. You have certain settings that you can do. There's going to be resources if you have PDFs, so on and so forth, okay? So this is what you have to do as far as kind of explaining to the learner where stuff is, okay? So I'm going to close this. You can make changes to that player setting, okay? That area around the outside is called a player. If you click on this player tab up here, what do I want to do? So do I want a menu? Absolutely. Do I want a glossary? No. Do I want notes? Probably not, but you can. Do I want resources? Probably not, but you can, okay? I do want the title. This is where you name it, so practice, I'm going to call it. Sidebar, and look, here's this button here. So it says starts collapsed. You see when I launched it, how it was there, prevalent. If you click this, says starts collapsed, it would be like this. It would be hidden, so they have to find it. Something you have to let the learner know on that instruction slide, just like in Captivate, right? You can do your play, pause, volume. These are all the player controls that you can do, and that's it. You can change the colors, obviously, do all those fun things. But for now, we're just going to say okay, and here we go. All right? Now, something that I do want to show you, because I do feel like you're going to want to do it, is actions, okay? Actions are pretty simple, pretty fun. And I'm going to start with, I'll do an illustration, probably a logo. icon. Okay, I'm going to say ball. And I'll do this. It's just March Madness is coming, so it's probably on my mind. There we go. Now, just because it came in black, I can change it, right? I can do whatever I want with it. There, see? So we got ourselves a ball. Now, interestingly enough, if I go down here and I hit states, I can't do anything to an icon. So let's not do that. I'm going to do it to text. When you begin, don't stop. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make that pretty big here. And it's just going to be that. Now, I don't want that to be seen initially, right? I don't want that to be seen until they click this start button. This is called, click to reveal. Later, it's known as a tabbed interaction when you have multiple ones. But what you do in this scenario here is I can come down here and I can see this edit states and it says initial state. I'm going to change that to hidden, okay? So now when I come here, this will not be seen initially. So I'm going to go ahead and preview and show you this. Quickly. There, it is not there, okay? So all you have to do is kind of talk your way through it. So I'm going to highlight this button because I want this text to show when they click this button. So I'm going to come over here and what's my action? My action is what? Change state, because I made the state initially hidden. So I want to change the state of what, and this is why you want to name things, because now when I click on this, I don't have that many things. And I know the only thing, if you look at my timeline, that I want to do is this text box. That's why you want to get good at naming things, because this could get convoluted. But if you don't, do you see how it just turned red? Here nor there, but there you go. So change it to normal when the user clicks, and of course it's a start button, right? So I'm going to hit OK, and we're good to go. I'm going to say preview this slide. This is very simple, but you could probably already start seeing the multitude of things that you could do as far as hiding an image until they click something, hiding text until they click something, okay? Easier said than done. Now, one thing I do want to show you is, you see how I have this next button down there? Maybe I don't want that next button to show until they click everything on here, right? That's called gated navigation. So I'm going to close this quick, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say I want that next button to go away. Right? So what I could do if I didn't want that next button is I could come here, make sure that I have my slide selected, and just uncheck this next button. But by unchecking, that means it's gone. It's never going to come back. So I want to keep that on there. And what I want to say is I'm going to change the state of that next button, right? So the one I was talking about, I want to change that to hidden when the timeline starts, right? So I'm going to say timeline starts in this slide. So as you can see, things are just going to kind of come across here. And what I'll show you now is I'm going to move this start button a little bit down on this timeline. And what you see is every time that the player goes, it'll start scrubbing this timeline. So when I preview this thing, it's not going to show, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's going to show. Okay? So interestingly enough, here we go. And because of that little bit of snippet I did there, the next button is not going to be there, right? Here we go. Wait for it. Where's my start button? Player playing. There it is. And then you see there is no next button, okay? So, now things are happening. What I can do now is I want to show you this. It's going to get a little sneaky, but maybe not. I could say when the user clicks on this, also show this text and change the state of that next button to normal. I could do that, right? But as far as thinking about what we could do moving forward, I'm going to give you another arsenal here, and that's to go to states. So another state that I can do is called visited, right? And you know what that is. So visit is when you've clicked on something, you've been there, a website, all that stuff. So visited. And I'm not going to do anything on that one. I don't need to change it um, at present. I could if I had multiple, right? So if I had 3 buttons here and I wanted the learner to say that they've already visited them, I would change it, right? For instance, I will do that just to give you the kind of the idea of what I'm talking about here. So now you can see that normal is normal, hover is when I'm hovering over it, and then visited is that. So if I had multiple buttons here, done. You can see that once I clicked on this, it would go to visited, knowing I've been there, and then I just have to come to this one, and we'll see that shortly here. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and say this. I can say, I want to change the state of that next button to normal, but when? When the state, right? So go to the state of, and that's the start button there, start BTN, is what? When it's visited, right? So see how it built that in and already did that? And that makes sense because this is where gated interaction comes in, gated navigation, as they say, is because you might have multiple clickable items on a slide and not want the user to go to the next slide until they've clicked all the way through, right? So essentially, let's say I had 2 clickable things here, which I do, but nothing's coded, and I don't want them to go to the next slide until both of these are clicked. So using that same snippet of code, I could say, change the next button to normal when these 2 buttons are both visited, okay? So if you see that, I clicked that, it showed this, and the next button came back. Cool? Okay. Super fast, but please stop, pause, do whatever you have to do. Now the other way that you can do information, okay, is in layers, okay? And layers are just a whole kind of like, almost like another screen, but not really. So it's down here in the bottom right, you can see I could do that, okay? Now all of a sudden, I have a brand new layer. And that's not going to be shown. It's there until it's triggered, okay? So I'm going to come on this layer and I'm going to go ahead and I want to insert a character. I haven't done a character in a while. I'm going to have to download them. So let's see how long this takes. Oh, not long at all. Okay, so I'm going to pick Simon. I'm going to do a front. Okay, where is he? Boom. Okay, there's Simon. He's going to be right here. And you can see that I can do anything. I can change his expression. I can change his pose. I can change his perspective. All of that. I can even change the character, but for now I'm just going to do this, okay? So now we have him, again, to show you, here I am on my base, and then here is a layer where he is. Now, interestingly, I will show you this. You probably already know how to do this, so I'm going to say show. I'm going to have it selected. And just to cancel things, just because I want to show you, this should definitely say show now, right? Show underscore BTN. So what I'm going to do is I want to show, instead of changing the state, I want to show layer, and then it's called layer, when the user clicks the show button, right? So just have that conversation with you. Okay? There's going to be a visited state on that one, so I could now change. Burp. Oh, nope. Change state of, where's that one? Here we go. So now it says set state of. So now I can do this and I can say both those. So now it's not going to actually show until both of them are clicked, okay? So let's preview this. Wait for it. Here it is. Wait for my start because of that timeline, remember. I'm going to click start. Here's this information. And I'm going to hit show. They're both visited. The next button showed up. And here's my character who's in that layer. Okay? Now, I know we're doing a lot here, but again, what are we going to do? Something that I can do, though, is you notice that when I did that, he popped up. If you double click on that layer over there, you can see that a properties panel comes up. And you can say hide other slide layers. So that's if you only want one slide layer showing at a time. You can do hide objects on the base layer, so that way only he comes up. Watch the difference here. Click, click, click. All right. And then there's other things, but for the most part, that's where you're at on that one. I don't want to do that just because I want to be able to see stuff and things. Okay. But you can do stuff like this. This is generally what is done. You kind of do something like this. I want him in the back, so I can just drag him. Oh wait, I wanted it up front. So stuff like this. Like maybe there's more content here now. Okay, etc. And then of course I'm gonna go ahead and show you a button. So I'm gonna do that. Now I could do everything. I could put an icon on this button. I'll put that on there. Back. Whoop. Okay, see that? It's everything you want. Format it. And you know what? I'll keep it that color. It doesn't matter. But you can see when I have this button selected, see all those states are built in. They have a hover, they have a down, they have a visited, they have a disabled. So all of that is already in there if you wanted to do that. But I wanted to show you this because what I can do now is I have a blank triggers over here because now everything that I do is just going to be showed in this particular layer. So I'm going to go ahead and say what? I want to hide this layer when they click button 1. It's cool if you're like, oh man, I didn't name it. So I can come back here and say back. You can see that automatically changes. So we're okay. So all good there. My last bit that I wanted to show you was, how we put this start button? So now you can do an animation. Well, where the heck do you think that's going to be? If you come up here, you can see that it's right here, animations. They have an entrance, they have an exit, they have emphasis. You can even do your own, right? All of that stuff. I am just going to simply say, I'll just say grow. I'll even do one on this one here. I'll fly this one in. And there you have it. So now when I go ahead and preview this, everything that you may or may not want to do within Storyline is now a variation of it. Okay, so I've kind of got some of it going here. So that show, you see that. I'm going to do show. Okay, so notice the next button's not there. I'm going to hit back, close that. Now I'm going to hit start. Saw my text, and the next button came, and off you go. So that should get you going as far as at least the baseline. And you could really have fun with Storyline. It makes kind of design fun and easy. You really can do whatever you want. And if you have anything specific that you want to do, shoot me an email and I will, I'll make a video that I'll then share with the class. But at least if you kind of, prompt me, I will go from there. All right, have fun.